Islam.
Islamism.
Islamism. We're back. We're back. We're back. Back on the channel. It's been about what, 3.5 years since we gone live, Sheik?
Yeah. Been doing many other works, but praise Allah.
That's right.
I thank you for doing your due diligence with rebranding and everything. It looks very, very good.
Islam.
Yeah, praise Allah.
Islamism. So, for our listening audience, for our viewing audience, anybody that's looking at the back play, we want to welcome you to the Moorish channel. As we stated a few minutes ago, we're not new to this, but we're true to this. We started the Moorish channel about approximately about 5 years ago in 2018. It was the Moorish Media platform that was on Facebook Live, and we had a considerable amount of individuals who inquired about the show. They wanted to know about the show. They wanted to know if we were bringing the show back. And here we are again. Here we are again, fresh for 2024. Myself, brother Brendan Jordan Ill, Sheik of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Temple number 13, located at 1055 North Milton Avenue. And with me, we have
Brother Valans Bay, Sheikh Moore Science Temple of America, at 1055 Milton Avenue, Temple number 13. Praise Allah.
Praise Allah. We're going to start this meeting off. Well, this meeting. It is a meeting. We're going to start our show off with the Moorish American prayer, and then we're going to go in and give honors as well. Islam. Okay. Islam. Islam. Islam.
Islam.
Allah,
Allah, the
Father
Father
of
of
the
the
universe,
universe,
the
the
Father of
Father
love,
of love,
truth,
truth,
peace,
peace,
freedom,
freedom, and
and
justice.
justice.
Allah is
That's
my
my
protector,
protector, my
my God,
God, and
and my
my
salvation,
salvation. By
by night
night and
and
by
by day,
day,
through his
the
holy prophet,
prophet, Drew
Drew Ali.
Ali. Amen.
Amen. Islamism.
Islam to our viewers, to all the Moorish Americans, all sympathizers, all individuals who are just watching the program. We greatly appreciate the feedback that we've been getting on the program. We greatly appreciate the questions that we've been getting in regards to the program. But first, I'd like to rise and give praises to Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I want to extend honors to our beloved Prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, who is to my left. I want to give honors to Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America. I want to thank the Prophet Noble Drew Ali for founding the Moorish Science Temple of America. Prophet Noble Drew Ali was born in the state of North Carolina, January 8th, 1886. I also want to give honors to the Prophet's forerunner, Brother Marcus Mosiah Aurelius Garvey, also known as the Harbinger. I want to give honors specifically to those who we know and those who we don't know, who kept the doors of the Moorish Science Temple of America open. I want to also give honors to our Supreme Grand Sheikh C. Pray the Ill, and Supreme Grand Sheikh B. Pray the Ill. Giving him a shout out and a happy Earth Day.
That's right.
Pray the Ill, giving
That's
him a
right.
shout out.
Praise
So
Allah.
we hope and pray that you're enjoying your day and your time with your family and your loved ones. I want to give honors to all the officials at 1055 North Milton Avenue. I want to definitely extend honors to our national Grand Sheikhs, Grand Sheikhs at 1055 North Milton Avenue, Sheikh T. Jones Bay. I also want to give honors to the officials of our Royal Council. I want to just extend honors to my wife, Deputy Sheikh Tamika Jordan Ill, and my children, Caleb and Mina Jordan Ill. Extend honors to my mother. I extend honors to my ancestors. Extend honors where honors due, and extend honors to each and every one of you for tuning in. Praise Allah.
Praise Allah. Islamism.
Islamism.
And the beautiful thing about Milton Avenue, right? Which we affectionately call Milton Avenue.
That's right.
We have a rich history, right? Actually, we're one of the oldest bodies inside of or in the United States. And the reason that I say that is because we could trace our heritage as far as temple genealogy back to 705 South Sharp Street, and then we know that there was it was something that happened, and then there was a Temple 13, and then there was a Temple 19, and whatever happened, we weren't born at that particular time, but we know and understand that the Moors here in Baltimore kept going. And we know that we wound up somewhere like on Moses Street, Lawrence Street.
That's
We went
right.
Baltimore Street. we've been on Aiken Street, we've been to Greenmount Avenue, we was on Myrtle Avenue.
That's right.
So, and here we find ourselves today that there were some elders present to be able to, so to speak, hold our hand and teach the things that we are learning and living at this particular point in time. So that's a blessing. We don't dispute charters,
Go ahead.
because it's too many other fish to fry, and then there are places that we can handle talking charter talk, so to speak. And if you are who you say you are, you know where that place is, and we're up for challenges, but not on this particular platform. You can contact us, and we can set up the appropriate setting for us to be able to discuss that.
That's
Right.
right.
So we don't we honor who our teacher is. We consider him to be. We know that there are different Supreme Grand Sheiks, but he is our Supreme Grand Sheik, and we honor our council, and we not saying putting down anybody else's counsel or whatever the case may be. We're about the principles of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, which are love, true peace, freedom, and justice. So
That's right. That's
yeah,
right.
and I think it's important. I think we did this before. I think it's important to not that it's important that of some of the things that we have obtained in our lifetime, but I think it's important for the listening audience to understand why we do what we do and why we teach the way that we teach. um you know and meeting you, Sheik, I was it was an honor, because I was just in the temple just a little tad before you. However, when I met you, you reminded me of myself and whatnot. And you were raising your children, you were young, and you were in school. So tell us about your journey. And the reason that I want, because it's a lot of people who say that they are researchers, but um, you know, um, a lot of people don't understand what research is really all about, right? I think they're lay people when it comes to research.
Mm.
So just explain to us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, absolutely. Praise Allah. So, just giving the viewing audience and the listening audience a little bit about my background. I came into the Moorish side, united in the Moorish Science Temple of America at the age of 24 years old. Prior to that, I went through, university, etc. I graduated
Yeah,
from Morgan State University. My background is actually in history. I was a history major and a poli-sci minor at Morgan State University. One of the things you'll learn there, as I stated before in the previous episode, is that it's extensive research when you are going through that specific channel of education. You learn a lot about primary sources. You learn about secondary sources. You also learn how to research thoroughly. But it's also a portion that I learned during my undergraduate studies called presentism. And with presentism, we don't put ourselves in this day and age in the past, because you can't do that. You can look at the past, you can take an objective look or a subjective look. But not more importantly, to segue through, when I came into the MST of A, the Moorish Science Temple of America, I wasn't an educator at all. I had no aspirations of even being in the educational system, but I always found myself working with youth, etc. It was a friend of mine who actually went to Morgan with, who said, Brendan, you should think about teaching for Baltimore City. And I found myself teaching for approximately 8 years with Baltimore City Public Schools, and I did a year down in Annapolis. And from that point, while I was in school, I earned my master's degree in education administration. So at this point in time, doing my work, doing my due diligence, learning these things that are necessary to fortify myself as a teacher. I went and I'm currently a curriculum coordinator and an educator in the public school system. I'm also the Sunday school instructor. I'm at 1055 North Milton Avenue, and I was also appointed by the people this past two conventions ago as a National Sunday School instructor as well. So I do take the teachings of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali very seriously. I make them applicable to my life, and I try to live to my best abilities under our 5 principles, which are love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice.
Praise Allah.
Wow.
Because like I said, it's a lot of, you can tell who is, or you can tell, like you said, presentism. You could tell about who does their due diligence and research and things of this nature. And one thing, that our teacher teaches us, that we can't change the past. However, we can we have examples of what happened in the past, and we can either learn what not to be, or we can learn what to be. Right. So as for myself, like I said, when you came in, uh, I saw you and, had an opportunity to meet with you and your family and everything. And I'm too, undergrad and from Sojourner Douglas, which is a sister school to Morgan State. Um, and I actually obtained an undergrad, a bachelor's in human services, and my concentration in social work. So I have over like 20 years of just dealing with people and doing just a little bit of background research as far as when it comes down to these things called biopsychosocials, which is looking at a person's whole background, medical history, and their psychological history, and putting it together in a presentation according to now what they utilize is something called the Diagnostic Statistical Manual in its version 5. But also, I was able to go on and obtain a master's of applied social science, which once you get to the master's level, you are taught a little bit different from how to do research and some of the things you said: primary sources, secondary sources, researching journals by your peers, and not just looking at one side. You also, in research, you try to look at something that disagrees with what you think. And now this is, you still don't have a complete picture, but this gives you a better picture, and now you become what is a practitioner scholar. And that's what we are as far as more scientists. We are practitioner scholars, right? We practice, and not only that, we are scholars at what it is that we need to do, as far as in the Moorish Science Temple of America, and making the teachings applicable to our lives. So that's just a little bit of our background to let you know that we not shooting from the hip,
That's right.
and if we, do present something, uh, if we don't have the source right here, right now, you definitely will get the source, and it's just not from a letter from 1928,
That's right.
that, or whatever time, which is good, but sometimes we can entrust in those things, but sometimes we can't. So
That's
yeah,
right.
praise Allah.
You took the word out. You took the words right out of my mouth, and the word is practitioner.
Hmm.
So with that being said, for our audience, I know that we we started on why do we need a nationality part one. This is a
Hmm.
3-part series. So what we're going to do, we're going to recap just a little bit, and we're going to take it a little bit further, and expound a little bit more on number one, the importance of nationality. Number two, well, excuse me, number one, what is nationality? Number two, the importance of having a nationality or knowing your nationality, and then number three, the importance of proclaiming your nationality and where you can proclaim your nationality, which is the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam.
That's right, Islam.
So with that
Yeah,
being said, oh, go ahead. My apologies.
no, because a lot of, especially within the last few years, you see a lot of people who are calling themselves a Moor,
Right,
right? Or they talking or proclaiming Moorish, and they've never actually visited a Moorish Science Temple of America. They're
right,
taking on ill and bay, and what they are doing is presenting themselves like they know what the Moorish Science Temple of America is all about. And unfortunately, some of those people have never been. They just like the idea of, or they think that Moorish is the new next slickest thing, and
right.
it's not a fad, right? It's
No, it's a
it's
way of life, man.
yeah, it's a way of life, So I just wanted to, mention that, because you see people, our like for lack of a better term, our Latino brothers and sisters,
That's right.
whether they're Mexican Americans, Nicaraguan Americans, El Salvadorian Americans, we see how they work together, and this is what the prophet had in mind for us when because he is the first Moorish American
That's right.
to proclaim, and he wanted us to be his children, and this is why he created an organization for us to come through to do as such. And we can look at many different examples of different people and how they utilize nationality,
That's all,
right?
man.
So praise Allah.
That's right. So we want to go to what we call, the standard for all Moorish Americans. And it's a point that the Sheikh just raised. I want to just add on to it. If they possibly were dealing with individuals who've never visited the Moorish Science Temple of America, or if they did visit, they visited for a short while, but they didn't
Mm-hmm.
stick and stay, which is not a strike against you. But what we would like, to implore our brothers and sisters, or just individuals in general, come visit the Moorish Science Temple of America. You can learn a little bit on this program, on this platform, but this program and platform, it ultimately is a supplement for what we learn and what we teach, and again, what we live. We live this not just on Fridays and Sundays, but we live our way of life
That's right.
Monday through Sunday, or Friday through Friday. Islam. All
Islam.
right. So what we have in front of us, and I'm just going to try to make it a little bit bigger for the audience. What we have in front of us is divine constitution and bylaws. Last week we came from Act 6. As a matter of fact, what I'm going to do this time, instead of sharing it as a source, I'm just going to do a screen share option.
Okay.
All right. So give me 1 second. I'm just going to pull it up on my screen. I want to make sure the people can see it. And I want to again apologize to everybody. It was this is a new platform. So, things came out a little wonky. We had some sources that were backwards and upside down and what may have you. But we're good for now. We're good for now. So it's a blessing. So, can you see this?
Praise Allah. I don't see it yet.
Okay. You don't see it?
No.
Okay. So I'll go back to the share screen. That's not a problem. And I'll just read it for the sake of time, for the sake of understanding. You see this?
Yeah, I can see it, but not. I mean, I could see it, but I just, of course, we can't see the wording.
Right.
But
So I'll just
praise
read it.
Allah.
Praise Allah. All right. So we have what we have in front of us. We have Act 6. Act 6 of the Divine Constitution, the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Divine Constitution and Bylaws, which is right over here. Act 6 reads, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and a partial of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live in the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem their people, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. My apologies. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites, whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. And the reason why I'm projecting this again, beloved brothers and sisters, is because we're going to be expounding on this specific act in our divine constitution and bylaws. It's so many different points that need to be raised. Last week, we focused specifically on the proclaiming of one's nationality, the fact that our nationality is tied into our divine creed. But the point that I want to raise tonight, this evening, is the fact that we are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, Ethiopians. And I want to just I want to kind of paint a picture for our viewing audience of what comes with identifying yourself as, well, we're not going to say Negro, even though Negro is, it's still in circulation. It is. You have
Mm-hmm.
organizations, and I'm not speaking radical, but you do have organizations that still have the name Negro embedded in their organizations. And if you ever want to know what we're about, it's right there in the name of our organization, the Moorish Science Temple of America. This lets you know that our organization is geared towards Moorish people. And the
That's
question
right.
that raises in my mind is, well, who is a Moorish person? Because if you look, and we just mentioned a few minutes ago, Sheik, if you look in colleges, and I'm gonna bring some of the articles that I received in college, there were articles that spoke specifically and directly about Moorish people here in America,
Hmm.
as well as elsewhere. But guess what? Those professors, they never taught on those points. They
That's
always
right.
taught on the points of Negro, black, the talented tenth, and things of that nature. And again, not beating up on anybody, but that's an indoctrination process, right?
That's right.
So
That's
we
right.
had in the Moorish Science Temple of America, we deprogram the individual, and we unlearn to relearn, to learn the truth about ourselves.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah,
And,
and you bring up a good point, right? Because there's a 2-volume textbook that I have, and it's some maps, and once we're able to share the maps, we'll show you how we were here in the Americas, as well as uh in what they presently call Africa, right? Because um what has happened is people try to take the science out of more science, and they don't carefully observe the teachings.
mm-hmm.
It's one thing to and then and then you go back and you read slowly. You start to really start to uncover some things, and the prophet is telling us a story, um and we are not able to tap into that story unless we carefully observe his trend of thought,
That's
right? Because he is an author. But a lot of people don't understand, and he is a prophet,
that's
right?
right.
So but a lot of people don't understand his teachings. They just read it, and they reading it fast, and it doesn't resonate, or we don't go do the appropriate research. And of course, everything we're not going to find in black and white either, but the gist of what he's teaching, we can find evidence of it.
That's right.
Yes, Lord.
Islamism. So I want to raise a point. I want to
Hmm.
just bring it to our listening and viewing audience attention. All right, so I want to go back to the definition of Negro. I'm gonna try this one more time, and if it doesn't work, then we'll just do presentations. But I'm gonna try share screen because I want to make sure that people can see it. All right, here we go. Can you see that?
No, it's not.
Still can't see it. Let me see. All right, praise the Lord. We'll just use it as this time. All right. So what we have in front of us is a definition of Negro. I'm just gonna read it. I'm gonna read it briefly, and I want us to kind of like just hit on some certain points because one thing that I raised last week, a thought that I raised to the audience last week is the fact that words carry spirit, and
Okay. Yeah,
specific
that's
words
right.
carry a certain energy, it carries a certain vibration, and from those vibrations, we have the ability to manifest positive attributes or not so positive attributes. And what you'll
Hmm.
find with this specific definition, this definition again, this is one of the documents that I received in undergrad. It was one of the documents that I received in undergrad. It was a point that was kind of expounded upon, and from that point, I kept all my records. So I've always had done a good job of keeping records, maintaining records, etc. All right, here we go. Let me exit out and I'm gonna share it again. All right, here we go. Give me 1 second. It's just uploading. There it is. All right. It's still coming out kind of small, so my apologies.
Yeah.
It says
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
that's right. It says the following extract from Encyclopedia Britannica is taken from the first American edition, 1798. It says Negro, Negro homophilia nigra, a name given to a variety of the human species who were entirely black and are found in a torrid zone. So torrid meaning dry, torrid meaning tropical zone, right? Especially in that part of Africa, talking about the continent, or it could be talking about somewhere else within the tropics. In the complexion of Negroes, we meet various shades, but they likewise differ far from or other men in all features of their face. Round cheeks, high cheekbones, a forehead somewhat elevated, a short, broad, flat nose, thick lips, small ears, and here we go, ugliness and irregularity of shape, characterized by their external appearance. and this is something that was projected as again by Europeans. We have
Hmm.
what we know as European psychology. So when you're looking at this document, the fact that it's the first American edition 1798 is what stands out to me. You got to, well, not you got to, but what you'll find is many people during this time period, when we're dealing with the 18th century, a lot of people were unlearned, and
Hmm.
those who were receiving education, etc. These individuals were learning by individuals who, in most cases, weren't even qualified to even
Hmm.
teach on certain subject matters. And this is what else. This is additional portions. It says the so-called Negro woman having loins greatly depressed and a very large buttocks, which gives the back the shape of a saddle. Vices, the most notorious, seem to be proportion of this unhappy race. Idleness, treachery, revenge, cruelty, impudence, stealing, lying, profanity, debauchery, nastiness, intemperance are said to have extinguished the principles of natural law
Mm.
and have silenced the reproofs of conscience. They are strangers of every sentiment of compassion and are an awful example of the corruption of man when left to himself. Now,
Wow.
this is 1798 when this document was written. And here we are in 2024. And, we're not beating up again or pouncing on anyone, but we know and understand that anywhere you go within this United States, and we know the media spins things of that nature, but when you look in the media, or if you just look in, some of the conditions that we find in our community, there's a lack of self
Hmm.
love, there's a lack of self respect, and there's also a lack of pride of self, a love of self. And a lot of that has to do with things that have been manifested throughout time and throughout
That's right.
generations that we build upon, or that we learn, or not learn, but we haphazardly accept. The prophet
Hmm.
Noble Ali comes, and he's coming in this era of time to take our minds not only out of the clouds, but take us out of the conditions that we find ourselves in, doing things that go contrary to the nature of truth.
That's right. And in Act 6, what we read in that divine constitution and bylaws, if anybody cares to go and look at it, he tells us that slavery lasted from 1779 to 1865. So here it is in the 2000s, or the 2000s. You're in college and you're reading an article from 1798, right? So you look at that and you subtract 1779 from 1798, and you find out how many years that was. And according to the divine constitution and bylaws, we were not out of slavery. And you can look in history books and you see that slavery didn't end until 1865. So here it is, an article that was written about a group of people, and we are being educated, right? In slavery, and then even thereafter slavery in institutions of higher learning, what a Negro is. And unfortunately, because people say, oh, now we call ourselves African American, we call ourselves black. Well, if we study the English language, now we know and understand that these are synonyms.
That's right.
And a synonym is a word that is spelled differently but means the same thing. So if you call yourself black, technically you're calling yourself a Negro. And if you're calling yourself African American, you're calling yourself black, you're calling yourself Negro. And then there's some other derogatory terms such as coon, shine, jigaboo. All of those things are synonyms for one another. So it's not a change. And then we could go a step further by looking at what it says in law. But we for this point in time, we won't do that. We'll wrap that up in probably the next segment of looking at some court cases that's still on the books till this day, that says, looking at a person's skin, what we can assume from that. So which is wrong, we know and understand. But this is why we have to proclaim who we are.
That's
We
right.
can't let people look at us and identify us as such. And this is what we teach in the Moorish Science Temple of America. You have to proclaim who you are.
That's right.
Islam.
That's right. And then it's a point that I wanted to raise too, and I wanted
Hmm.
to share it with share with everyone pertaining to nationality. And I'm going to pull it up real briefly because when you think about nationality, a lot of people think about individuals having a specific territory and things of that nature. So when we
Hmm.
we come across, Asiatics, people who people identify themselves as was stated before, and we're not being disrespectful, but so-called Black or so-called African American. They say, well, you'll say, well, African America is a continent, another continent. They'll ask us, well, what about Moorish? You can't find Moorish on that, but what is a Moorish? What is Moorish, right? And
Mm-hmm.
when you look at the definition of a nationality, well, let's go. When you look at the definition of nationality, give you a prime example of this. And this is coming from Encyclopedia Britannica as well, but we also have other sources pertaining to nationality. And what we're doing right now, um, we're creating a case, so to speak. It's called
That's right.
compare and contrast. In the School of Education, it's called compare and contrast. It's not to sway you to make a specific decision, but to get you to think. The prophet says, if I can get you to think, you can save yourself. And this is what we have been entrusted to do, to get the public to think, and not take our word for it, not take it for face value either. So here we go. So again, apologies. It's kind of small, so I'm just going to read off of that. But nationality. This is from Encyclopedia Britannica. Encyclopedia Britannica Incorporated. The article title is Nationality. It says nationality and law of membership in a nation or sovereign state. It is to be distinguished from citizenship. So there's a distinction between nationality and citizenship. It's a distinction. They go hand in hand with each other, but
That's
it's
right.
a distinction. You know, people think, well, I'm not going to say people, I'm not going to generalize, but most people think that just because you're born here, that makes you a citizen.
No.
Nah, not at all. All right. It says a somewhat narrower term that is sometimes used to denote the status of those nationals who have full political privileges. Before an act of Congress made, before an act of U.S. Congress made them citizens. For example, so-called American Indians were sometimes referred to as non-nationals.
Mm.
Individuals, companies, corporations, ships, and aircraft all have nationality for legal purposes.
Now, you said in law, right?
In law.
So we know that law governs all events, right? So somebody might say, "Oh, law doesn't govern all events." Okay, well, when you driving down the street, there's a stoplight, and if you run it, the law is that you will get a ticket. Most likely, if there's a policeman around, you could cause an accident, and or now they have cameras, and you will get the ticket in the mail. So
That's
that's
right.
you. Even though it's a small law, you broke it, right? So we know and understand that law governs all events, and you're coming from the Encyclopedia of Britannica,
That's right.
and this law is governing how we function here in America today, right? And I don't want people to think that because we don't call ourselves black, we're saying that we're better than our people. No, what we're saying is that don't call myself black and don't call my people black, and we should not refer to ourselves as being African Americans and the various other names. I know here in Baltimore now people calling themselves dummy,
Right.
and I'm like, what?
Right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, that's
and
legal.
you said ships.
Yeah. Yes, sir. So
Okay.
individuals, companies, and it's in parentheses, corporations, ships, and aircrafts all have nationality
Hmm.
for legal purposes. It says it is in reference to natural
Hmm.
persons, however, that the term finds most frequent use. Nationality is in fact commonly regarded as an inalienable right for every human being. Thus, the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 1948, states that everyone has the right to a nationality, and no one should be arbitrarily deprived of his nationality. Now, I want to raise this point
Hmm.
because it was a video that I previewed years ago, and it was Brother Malcolm X, and he was kind of going in, and he was
Hmm.
making reference to first class, second class, and third class citizens. And that
Hmm.
point always stuck out to me, and it didn't make sense to me until I united into the Moorish Science Temple of America what was meant by a first class, a second class, and a third class citizens. But guess what? If we're dealing
Hmm.
with the fact that all men are created equal, And there should be no such thing as first class, second class, or third class citizens.
How
So
about that?
something's not right about that
Something ain't
situation.
right.
Something ain't right. Even if you look at, a lot of the things that are happening in society today, right. And then, Sister Tamika Jornell just said Iran nationalized their oil.
Oh,
So if
she worked.
their oil has a nationality, so do we. That's a great.
And another point that now that uh, Deputy Sheik has brought up Iran, so did Iraq, and
That's right.
America got upset and they went to war because it has to be something with this nationalization, right? Or when something is nationalized, right?
That's right.
And it, you know, the I want the people to know this, like, there's no such thing as Moorish nationals,
Go
and
ahead,
don't
man.
pay nobody any money because they selling you a package, or saying that it can be done through submitting all this fictitious paperwork and stuff like that.
That's right.
The Prophet Noble Ali, during his time, that paperwork did not exist, and this was why he created an organization, because let the truth be told, the Moorish Science Temple of America is a registration center. So and you said Brother Malcolm said that, right?
That's right.
And didn't he point out the fact that we had to go to the United Nations?
That's right. Right. Right
And
after.
and now we see that the United Nations puts out a document, um, and in that document it says that every child or person is entitled to a nationality,
That's right.
because the Negro, Black, Colored, African, these are fictitious names and beings. No, we can go to any true and divine record. We talking about the Quran of Mecca, the Holy Bible, whatever record that you read, you can't find a such thing as a group of people called African American, coon, shine, jigaboos, and
Black
you know,
nation, so on and
yeah,
so
and
forth.
you
Right.
can't. Only place we find a black flag is on roach spray.
That's right.
That's black. That's what they call it, black
Black
flag.
flag roast spray.
So
That's right.
yeah. So
That's right. Praise the
yeah. Praise
Allah.
the Lord.
So I want to just finish the last point on this nationality piece, and then I want to get into, I guess, what we can say, the portion coming from the Prophet Noble Ali, and then also I want to also expound a little bit on the Great Book of the Resurrection. If that's all right with you, Sheik.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. We need to. Yes.
Praise Allah. So this is the last point that I'm gonna read right here. It says nationality is of cardinal importance because it is mainly through nationality that the individual comes within the scope of international law and
Wow.
has access to the political and economic rights and privileges conferred by modern states on their nationals. When it says national, let's go back to what the Sheikh just mentioned. We're not talking about Moorish nationals. We're not talking about Moorish sovereigns. And no disrespect to those brothers and sisters who follow that trend of thought, but when you look at what the Prophet Noble Ali established with the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Moorish Science Temple of America is a perpetual movement, perpetual meaning
That's right.
everlasting. We get
That's
our citizens conferred on us by way of the Moorish Science Temple of America. When you come into the Moorish Science Temple of America, which is incorporated in this government, you get all the rights, all the benefits, all the not we're not talking about granted privileges, but you
right.
get all the rights that are bestowed upon a true citizen.
Hmm.
And then you learn the inner workings of what true citizenship means. So when the Prophet Noble Ali gives us, or he's given us 5 principles, and we say often that these 5 principles are universal principles. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice are universal principles because, in the truest sense, a nation of people, regardless of what nation they may be, they're going to practice those principles.
That's right.
But if they aren't practicing those principles, then they're in violation of specific laws.
That's right.
Islam.
That's right. And,
Uh,
and let's be clear, right?
right.
We're not saying that it's a magic wand that's going to be waved and people are going to get all this money, because that's what a lot of people think,
That's
right?
right.
That's not what we're saying. What we are saying is that be proud of your nationality, and come, if you are going to link yourselves with the Moorish Science Temple of America, do so, and come and let's do some work. But don't um charge people money and put them in the worst condition that they're in, because you teaching something that's not connected to Noble Drew Ali, but then you using his name, you using Moorish, and you putting people in a worse condition, and now we left with picking up the pieces and helping people understand that that stuff that people teaching out there, that's not what the Prophet Noble Drew Ali wanted. We got work to do. There is no such thing as free lunch,
That's
right?
right.
And I say this all the time. Nobody's coming to save us. He already then came and put us on with the information, and other individuals have already come and to try to round us up and get us to do the right thing. But unfortunately, for some reason, people don't see the value in doing their own sweat or putting their sweat equity or their human
That's
resources
right.
to the wheel. But we see other nationalities doing it, like our cousins, uh, the Mexican Americans, the
That's right.
Nicaraguan Americans. They work together and they follow their principles. Our the Jewish brothers and sisters, they do the same thing, except for the so-called Negro here in America. We the only ones that uh, always fighting and arguing amongst ourselves, but that can change.
That's right.
If we practice some principles, which was given to us by Prophet Noble Drew Ali,
That's
right?
amazing. And
And
that's a
so,
great point.
and other people who practice the same principles but might have said it in a different way.
That's right. It kind of takes me back to the Quran and the chapter on the beginning of Christianity when the Prophet Noble Drew Ali makes reference to our principles being taught universally to all
That's right.
nations. So when we're in tune with those universal teachings, regardless of what nation you come from, it'll make things a lot easier. And it's a great point that you raised too, Sheik. I actually met a Mexican American young brother Sunday, right after
Uh-huh.
Sunday school. I was trying to get one of my U.S. Constitution laminated. And the
Hmm.
brother, he was just telling me, he was like, you went to school? And I was like, yeah, I went to Morgan. And he pulled out his little lanyard and we got to talk. And he said, yeah, I'm originally from California. And he said, are you pro-American? And I said, well, I'm Moorish American. And he said, okay. Yeah, I'm for protecting my family, my loved ones, etc. And he also
Hmm.
stated, that he's a law abider. So that kind of raised it kind of raised my antennas. Like, this young brother who was about 22, 23 years old in the senior year of college. Shout out to him. Just the fact that being that young, and you see how many of the youth, and I say youth because
Hmm.
I'm in my 30s now, are easily swayed by social media, etc. In my
You
30s,
in your 30s, Mo?
yeah, I'm in
Nah,
my
Mo.
30s. So they they're easily swayed by like social media, etc. But he had
Mhm.
a good head on the shoulder. So shout out to that young brother. Um,
Praise Allah.
Praise Allah. So, the divine warning by the prophet for the nations. I want to just read it. Sheikh, do you want to give our listening audience just a little bit of background on the divine warning? And I'm only going to read the first portion.
Yeah, so the divine warning is an editorial, and it was presented, if I'm not mistaken, and I'll stand corrected if I am, and I'll make sure that I give the listening audience the correction. But it was presented in the joint sessions of Congress, and this was by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Um, and when he came, he was warning, as we can see, it's nations with an S,
That's right.
because when you're in elementary school, they tell you that America is the melting pot. So you come to find out that there are many different nations here in America, and basically they all represent, or they look out for themselves, right? So um we can't expect other people to respect us if we don't respect ourselves.
That's right.
If I don't respect myself, other people are going to treat me how I treat myself. So this is another importance of nationality principles, and having love not only for yourself but your people as well.
Islam. Thank you for that insight, Sheikh. And yes, um, the Prophet Noble Drali, he spells it out clearly. We're just going to go to the first portion of the divine warning, and we're gonna pick this apart, not in a negative way, but we're gonna really really make it stick for the context for our viewing audience and our listening audience. But I'm just going to read briefly, and if you have a copy, you can follow along. I'm coming from the Moorish literature. real briefly. It says editorial, a divine warning by the prophet for the nations, the citizens. Now we just mentioned citizens earlier, right? And I'm just going to go back to it. So it says that nationality is to be distinguished from citizenship, a somewhat narrow term that is used to denote the status of those individuals. But when you look at it, we're going to see what citizenship truly is. It says the citizens of all free national governments, according to their free national constitution, are all one family bearing one free national name. Now, when we're dealing with the Free National Constitution for the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Free National Constitution, from my understanding, and again, as it was stated earlier, I stand corrected, but the Free National Constitution for the Moorish Americans is the Divine Constitution and bylaws. The Divine
That's right.
Constitution and bylaws, the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Divine Constitution and bylaws, because what you'll find in the Divine Constitution and bylaws, the name of our organization is the Moorish Science Temple of America. And I'll let that part right there resonate with you. And if you have more
Mm-hmm.
questions about that piece, by all means, you can either email us at moresensemedia@gmail.com, or you can just reach out to us and I'll expound on it a little bit more. But America, Islam,
Mm-hmm.
it
Yes, sir.
says those who fail to recognize the free national name, their free national name, excuse me, those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. So let's rewind, let's recap. It says those who fail to recognize their free national name and their constitutional government are classed as undesirables. The Moorish Science Temple of America was founded, the love thought, or the thought of the Moorish Science Temple of America started taking, how can I say it, started taking root in
Mm-hmm.
1913. The Prophet began to manifest his organization. And as a result of that, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali put into play where he introduced us to our nationality, which is
Mm-hmm.
Moorish American. Through that time in the early 1900s, the 1920s, etc., you're dealing with incidents, for example, like the summer of 1919, which was one of the bloodiest summers in Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
which just so happened to be the headquarters and later years of the Moorish Science Temple of America.
Mm-hmm.
You're also dealing with several different riots that took place concurrently throughout this country that were targeting Asiatic communities that were thriving and doing well economically. Some people were doing well politically, and some were doing well socially, and yet they still weren't recognized and they weren't respected.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a reoccurring thing that we even see up until this day. But
That's right.
I don't want to dwell on that point, but I just want to raise that point.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at it, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, who was a man of not too tall stature, about 5'6", 5'7", he's teaching our people, come on, you Asiatics of America, and learn the truth about your nationality and birthrights, that you're not Negroes, right? He's teaching our people that they're not Negroes, and some people are saying, man, I don't want to hear what this guy has to say. I'm not, because they were not in love with the idea, but this is something they only knew.
Yeah, they were comfortable. Right.
That's
They were
right.
comfortable.
Even to this day, we can talk to, and I know I have. You can let people know up and down. Hey, man, black. That's not necessarily that's not a positive thing. And if you
Right.
really look into it, you're kind of invoking a specific energy on yourself, and they brush you off. Some people do, take note of it,
Mm-hmm.
and we teach, that seed. You plant that seed and allow it to germinate. But ultimately, it states that these individuals are classed as undesirables.
Mm-hmm.
So again, going back to the point of first class, second class, and third class citizenship, if an individual is a citizen, you're just a citizen. There's no classes. This,
Right.
this isn't a plane ride, and coach, you sitting in first class, and this other person
Right.
sitting in the middle. You understand what I'm saying?
and,
We just ain't
and
how
let's
it go.
and,
So
and
uh,
let's be clear. Just because you're a movie star and you got a mansion and you got $1 million or you got a Mercedes Benz or like sometime for listening pleasure, I might pop in a little, even though I get the clean version, I might listen to a little Rick Ross. I'm
right,
saying you still calling yourself black
that's
and
right.
you got all that money, so it money don't make the man. You still are classified as undesirable, even though you're able to move around and do different things. So now we need more is mental.
That's right.
And even though truth be told, man, you're not free until you. And what we saying is, um,
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit, Sheik. You're breaking up a little bit. You're still coming in a little unclear. All right, there you go. Now you good. You
okay,
good now. Yeah,
just just by us having a bunch of money and status as movie stars and rappers and stuff like that and money, that doesn't make us free.
that's right.
We have to proclaim our nationalities, and we have to live according to our standard and our principles. That's what makes us free.
That's right. So when we look at some of the mistreatments, the names, and excuse me, some of the inferior names, abuses, and mistreatments the citizens care to bestow upon them, clear example just comes to mind. And a lot of Asiatics are celebrating the Asiatic History Month, or as some people call so-called Black History Month. One of the reoccurring themes you see, and I'm not disrespecting any of our ancestors or even the foreparents or those who had to endure, because I mean that's some of the things they had to go through here in Maryland as well as in other areas of the country. But you look at some of the mistreatments, people being I don't want to be too graphic about it, but individuals being castrated and all types of different
Oh yeah.
situations that were happening to people. That's
Mm-hmm.
not by happenstance. That wasn't just a matter of I don't like you because of the shade of your skin. No, that's because you had a legislation that was appropriated. You had individuals who were receiving, and I'm just being honest, receiving backroom deals, pay cuts. You had
Mm-hmm.
even the idea and the concept of the big six who were paid off while the people were fed to slaughter. You had these different
That's right.
things happening during that time. But back to the prophet, the divine warning says this. It says, "And it is a sin." So, as a Sheikh Reliance Bey gave us, he always gives us the acronym on sin, meaning self-inflicted nonsense. So when
Mm-hmm.
you see this, a lot of this stuff, you have an individual or you come into the understanding that you're not Negro, Black, and colored, go Negro, Black, and colored, and you still want to adopt those principles, then that's self-inflicted. But likewise, self-inflicted nonsense, just saying, is what you call yourself. Also, how how you're projecting on yourself and you're projecting on others, working on yourself and what you're invoking on others. It says it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and principles that allude to slavery. Now, when you look at the national constitutional laws, and we're talking about the U.S. Constitution now, that you won't find any laws. I'm talking about the Constitution. I'm not talking about when you're dealing with the later amendments. I'm talking about the amendments that make up the Constitution. You're not going to find any amendments that legislate or put into law the idea or even mention and name people or persons called Negro, Black, and colored. They will omit it intentionally, omit it individuals called Negro, Black, and colored because they were profiting from the institution of physical or chattel slavery. And
That's
then
right.
after that, when you're dealing with the timeline that we're given by the prophet, that slavery lasted in this country from 1779 to 1865, then you'll find that after 1865, we're dealing with the issue of mental slavery. And
Mm-hmm.
part of the issue of mental slavery is not only adopting these slave names, these titles or labels such as Negro, Black, and Colored, but also, holding these up like these are principles or creeds or something or a badge of honor when really it's not.
That's right. and they're perpetuating the behavior, right?
Right.
And if you go and you start examining the behavior of uh, what the slave masters were teaching at that particular time, bully coons, and I'm not calling nobody a coon or nothing like that,
That's right.
but you got bully coons, you got other just names that they utilize, and if you look at the behavior that was being practiced in that particular time, and you examine what's going on today, it's the same. It's the same soup warmed over again, but because people feel like they are far removed from slavery. They feel like I don't have to talk about it or it doesn't affect me, when actually what we're seeing in our communities today is the residual effects of our people being in slavery and not being educated to who they are and truly where they come from.
That's right.
Hmm.
It's a point I want to raise, and this is coming from chapter 47 in the Holy Quran. And the title of this chapter is Egypt, the capital empire, the dominion of Africa.
Hmm.
Right? Just to make it clear for our listening and viewing audience. So the Prophet Noble Drali, and I'm reading from the Holy Quran, just real briefly, and then we'll get into briefly the Great Book of the Resurrection. But in this chapter, which is it requires a lot of time to research and actually break and actually just to sit down and read carefully examine and observe what is being presented to us by the Prophet Noble Drali. But the Prophet says this. He says in verse 9, he says, according to all true and divine records of the human race, there is no Negro, black, or colored race attached to the human family, because all the inhabitants of Africa were and are of the human race, descendants from the ancient Canaanite nation from the Holy Land of Canaan.
Hmm.
What your ancient forefathers were, you are today without doubt or contradiction. There is no one who is able to change man from the descendant nature of his forefathers unless his power extends beyond the great universal creator Allah himself.
Hmm.
And then the prophet says this as well. He says, these holy and divine laws are from the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, founder of the Uniting of the Moorish Science Temple of America. These laws are to be strictly preserved by all members of all temples of the Moorish Science Temple of America, that they will learn to open their meeting and guide it according to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. He says, every subordinate temple of the Grand Major Temple is to form under the covenant of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and create their own laws and customs in conjunction with the laws of the Holy Prophet in the Grand Temple. And this is
Hmm.
what the Prophet is saying. So this parallels off with the article we just read. It says this. It says, I, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, was sent by the great God Allah to warn all Asiatics of America to repent from their sinful ways before that great and lawful day which is sure to come. And the great and lawful day is right here, right now. This is
Yeah,
the
you
great
better believe
yeah, this is the great lawful day. It says, the time has come where every nation must worship under his own vine and fig tree, and every tongue must confess his own. It says, through sin and disobedience, every nation has suffered slavery due to
it.
the fact that they honor not the creed and principles of their forefathers. It says, this is why the nationality of the Moors was taken away from them in 1774, and the word Negro, black, and colored was given to the Asiatics of America who were of Moorish descent, because they honored not the principles of their mother and father, and straight after the gods of Europe whom they knew nothing. Excuse me. So the prophet's giving us another date that's important and imperative, which is 1779. And it
Mm-hmm.
always sticks out to me that, like, shit, when you think about it, our
Hmm.
nationality or nationality by four, our nationality was stripped from us, and in replacement of our nationality, we were given a word. Because
Oh
Negro,
yeah,
black, and colored is nothing but a word. It's nothing but a color, and yet people are walking around like it's a badge of honor and they proud, man.
man. and and that's so 1779. So you look at 1774, and the prophet says in Acts 6 that slavery lasted from 1779 to until 1865. And then in that chapter you just read, it talks about 1774.
That's right.
So that's a 5-year period before they started. Before. So we weren't in slavery in 1774,
Islam.
right? But some records, the cover up, they try to tell us we was slaves from 1619 up until. So we see according to the prophet that, hey, we ain't going to slavery till 1779.
That's right.
And then if you examine it closely, like you just said, it was some other words that they gave us too, and we have documentation to prove that they replaced Moorish with
That's
other
right.
words,
That's
right?
right.
Leading up till they were able to identify us as being Negroes, now black, colored, Afro American, African American, Coonshan, Jigaboo, and all the other derogatory names. So that's when you carefully look at that, you look at that timeline and you like, hold on, what was going on then? And you start investigating and digging up some stuff. We're going to find out that we were very much here. We were a part of establishing this government.
That's right.
We weren't slaves until a certain point in time in this country. So yeah, it get deep, and it's and it can be a lot to unpack. But if you take your time, because how long you been in the temple, Sheik?
9 years approximately.
9, and I'm going on 27,
Wow.
right? So it's like it takes time for it to unfold. This ain't nothing. You just gonna come in the temple 1 year, 2 years. I mean 9 or even 26 years.
That's right.
We're always learning. Like everybody loves Erica Badu. I mean, she said the man who knows something really knows that he knows nothing at all.
That's right.
So the more you learn, the more that you find out that you don't know. And we should always be humble, especially when we're around our brothers and sisters. And if we're trying to learn, just let's learn and let's reason together. It's no need to be at odds with one another, like
Right.
some people try to make it. But we trying to make the world a better place, just like other people are. So yeah, praise Allah.
Praise Allah. So now what we want to do real briefly, we're going to go to uh, the great book of the resurrection. And Sheik, did you want to just expound on it just a little bit?
Yeah. So a lot of people may have this record, may have seen it, and they misunderstand it. So now we make reference to this as being the divine pamphlet number 2,
That's right.
right? Because we do have another pamphlet where the prophet is actually holding a sister in his arms, and now we see that the representation of the drawing on the front of this book is Timothy G. Dingwell, hyphenated Noble Drew Ali in this era of time. A lot of people would disagree with that, however, we not concerned with that, right?
That's right.
We honor his teachings and what he's teaching us from his writings. So we see that the sister is laying on a rock of salvation, right? And really she's not even laying down, because if you carefully observe it, it's some words written beside her, and she has a sword sitting by, and somebody can go to sleep and think she's sleeping, but she ain't sleeping. She looking at that sword.
That's
That's
right.
why it says defend her or she'll defend herself. And when we say put the sister down, we not talking about putting her down, downgrading her. We talking about putting her down with the law, because today man teaches, but tomorrow woman teaches best. So this book was created. When you look at the title, it says resurrection, and then there's a colon. So those who study the English language, look up what a colon does. So we see that the resurrection, the Moorish Science Temple of America needed to be resurrected.
That's right.
And what he's telling us, the truth, and there's a colon behind that, be yourself and not somebody else. We don't have to try to be somebody that we're not. All we have to do is be ourselves, and Allah will take care of the rest. But that's if we searching and looking inside of ourselves for Allah, through prayer, meditation, eating right, treating
That's right.
people right, living according to the principles. And he established this book because there was some confusion about the Moorish Science Temple of America, as it still exists till this day. So this particular pamphlet, Divine Pamphlet number 2, can help us solve a problem publicly or privately in our own private lives. So that's and he has, if I draw you cut.
That's
So
right.
we know and understand that the symbol for truth is a sword. And how can I tell somebody the truth, or try to straighten somebody out, and I ain't living right? Because
Islam.
it's a double-edged sword. You you got to know what you're doing with the sword. And if you don't know what you're doing, then you're gonna cut yourself.
That's right.
So as we demonstrating a little bit of science, but because people don't understand the science and they won't try to take their time to be taught the science, now you get a misunderstanding of what this man and prophet was demonstrating in our era time, you know. So that's just a little bit of history of what I know about the cover, you know,
Praise the Lord.
and a little bit about the book. And
That's right.
there are people out there that know much more than me about this book right here. But you know, I'm just demonstrating one or two things that I know.
Praise the Lord.
Islam.
Islamism. And then another point that the Sheikh raised, the Sheikh said, to be yourself, to get in tune with yourself. And when you look
Mm-hmm.
inside of Divine Pamphlet number 2, you'll find that it states that the bull, the public defender, and it says that we'll pray for 3 things. That's wisdom,
That's right.
knowledge, and understanding. So get familiar and get in tune
That's
with
right.
yourself. But the portion that I wanted to read just briefly, and we read it before, is the portion on introduction to philosophy concerning race and nationality. Now, as I stated last week, race and nationality becomes a blur in the minds of our people because they tie race and nationality based on the constructs that we find here in this country. A lot of people think that when they look, for example, if you look on a job application or things of that nature, they think that by checking off the boxes pertaining to race, that's dealing with your nationality. But in all actuality, that's not true. So we're going to focus specifically on those aspects. So I want to get down to the portion on race. We talked about, on nationality. It
Mm-hmm.
says, man gets his nationality from the country or land of his forefathers. That is subject to change through an adoption. But man's race never changes, regardless how he may amalgamate or marry into the families of the pale skinned nations of Europe or what part of earth he may inhabit. His race will still be the same because that is his natural descent, and he cannot be changed unless man has the power to extend beyond the sun, moon, and stars. The two names of races are the Asiatic race and the European race. All Muslims are members of the Asiatic race. The nationalities that are involved are also members of the Asiatic race. And I'm just going to read one portion. It
Mm-hmm.
says Moorish. So now we're dealing with natural descent. The Moorish, who are the ancient Moabites and the founders of the holy city of Mecca. And I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
stop right there because
Okay.
we're dealing with Moorish. We're not wrong at all for proclaiming who we are. We're Moorish Americans. We're Moorish by descent. We're Moorish because we're Moorish people, because that's what our nationality of our forefathers were. And if we're going from a historical lens, it is stated that at one point in time that we were brought to these shores during the 17th century. And the Prophet Noble Ali asked a very important question. He said, did they not have a nationality? Of course they had a nationality. And then you look and see, well, what was the last name that we were actually called before we went into slavery? Historically, it was Moorish. So
That's
we
right.
are Moorish Americans. Why are we American? Why do we take on the national name American? We take on the national name American because we are children of our forefathers who were born here in America. You understand what I'm saying? So
That's right.
the Moorish Science Temple of America, and no disrespect, we're not a go back to Africa movement at all.
That's right.
The Prophet Noble Ali teaches us to go back into the mind of our foreparents. So if we're going to go back to Africa, we're going to go back in the mind. And when you go back in the mind, you'll already come to find out that you're already standing in the shores of Northwest Africa. But
That's right.
that's a different lesson.
And you'll find out that our forerunner Marcus Mosiah really is Garvey when he was talking about going back to Africa. Yeah, some people did, but he wasn't talking about it in the sense that people thought that he was talking about it. Because if he was, the Black Star Liner, and people can check it, it wouldn't have been an import. It wouldn't have been an import and export company.
That's right.
He would have just said, "All right, look, I'm building the Black Star Liner to export people back to Africa." But that's not what that organization was about, or that ship company. It was about import and export, because we know and understand that Marcus Mosiah really is Garvey was an economical giant. So we look at that, and then what you just read, which is going to probably lead us into next week, because there's a whole he talking about a system that was put in place.
That's right.
And there's an origin of the system, and we'll kind of talk about the origin of the system next week. Who the players were of the origin of the system and how it came about. And let the truth be told, we're not talking about the kingdom of Morocco
Oh,
presently.
that's right.
We talking about the Moroccan Empire. And according to what I've studied, the Moroccan Empire, before the Atlantic Ocean was an ocean, it was a river. We could canoe across here, and our empire stretched all the way from Alaska all the way down to Peru, and what is now also called the northwestern, what is presently called the northwestern, and some of the southwestern shores of Africa, which we know that we are on those particular shores till this day. Now, this might be a little high science to some people because they not able to make a frame of reference, but you keep watching and you visit a temple, you'll come to understand what we're saying.
That's right. All right. So I want to just end off on this last point. You asked me to share this article. I can read the article, and you can provide feedback on the article and
Mm,
reference to the article. All right. So we have this article, and I'm just going to pull it up on my screen, and I'll read off on it.
okay.
That's the Facts, Opinions, and Hypothesis article.
Facts, opinion. Is that the?
That's the 88 article. Yes, sir. 1988.
Oh, okay. Is that the from the GED book?
That's right.
And does it have the questions and answers?
Hmm. You want me to go off on it? I can.
Yeah, please.
Praise Allah. So the
Because
article. Go ahead. Go ahead.
the reason that this comes from a GED book, and it was a basic reading exercise, and the individual who put this inside this pretty much tells us, like, at that in 1988 what scholars thought about the Moorish Science Temple of America based off of their particular research, basically.
Praise Allah. So I'm just going to take a reading that says exercise 7 on facts, opinion, and hypothesis. It tells the reader to read the following passage and answer the questions to follow. It states this. It says the United States of America is home to many religious and ethnic groups, and we're going to talk about the word ethnic next week. The Moorish Americans are one of the many nationalities who enjoy a wide range of freedoms offered by the U.S. Constitution. These Moorish Americans are descendants of Moroccans. An Islamic people, Moors obtained their principal moral guidance from the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The oldest Islamic organization in the United States, or the U.S., the Moorish Science Temple of America, was founded in 1913 by Prophet Noble Drew Ali after chattel slavery had ended. Many Moors had no identity. They did not know that they were Moors. Therefore, they did not practice their Moorish culture. Because of Prophet Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish Science Temple of America, they regained their identity. Today, there are thousands of Moorish Americans in the United States who observe the culture established by their ancient forefathers. American Moors or Moorish Americans have two surnames, only two, Il or Bey. Moorish Americans attend colleges and universities, serve in the armed forces, and in general obey the laws and Constitution of the United States. However, they do not celebrate Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, the 4th of July, or Labor Day. They're major holidays, and again, this is from the perspective, but this is a holiday that we all celebrate and give honor to as Moorish Americans, January 8th, which is the birthday of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. You also have June 18th, which is the birthday of Brother Alail, an important figure in Moorish history. And then on December 6th, the birthday of Prophet Noble Drew Ali reincarnated, who is to my left, the image right here behind me. That's Prophet Noble Drew Ali reincarnated. Moorish Americans wear turbans and feathers, and women wear turbans of red, white, blue, or green. These brilliant colors are reminiscent of the Moorish flag, which is the red flag with the 5-pointed green star in the center. These 5 points represent the basic principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Today, Moors are upright, independent, and fearless, just as their ancestors were when they ruled Spain from AD 711 to 1492. And there's some questions and answers that go along with this called critical thinking skills. And this is what More Sense channel is about. We're about getting our people and just people in general, our viewers, to think critically. It says Moorish Americans are not Christians. This is true or false or opinion, fact, opinion, or hypothesis. Moorish Americans are not Christians. That's a fact. The Moorish Science Temple of America was begun before the Nation of Islam was established. That's a fact. Moorish Americans are the most upright, independent, and fearless people in the world. I'm gonna be biased, but I'm gonna be perfectly honest because I think
That's a
we
fact,
are.
bro.
That's a fact, right? But that's an opinion. That's an opinion. We're gonna
Praise
just be
Allah.
fair and give them an opinion. And it says the highest educational level of Moorish Americans is directly related to their religious beliefs and personal practices. That's a fact. And then it says Prophet Noble Drew Ali was an even greater leader than the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That's an opinion. I'm gonna be fair to our brothers and sisters from the nation.
Mhm.
We don't, we ain't comparing and things of that nature, but you got to give honor where honor is due, and honor is due to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, who was the
Praise
founder of
Allah.
Islamism.
Islam.
You know,
So, hopefully the listening audience, people who watch and will watch, you see that we are about our Father's work,
that's right.
and we're not going to sit up here and try to twist the narrative to fit what it is that we're saying. We're going to present you with real live examples of what a Moorish American should be. So we hope that you continue to watch.
That's right.
We will have like a email address where you will be able to send in questions. Soon you'll be able to, call in
We got a phone number too. That's right.
and make it interactive, because it's just that time to where the people need to see a more positive view from Moorish Americans, because we're not those people who fleecing people for money. We not goofing off and being we family.
That's right.
We are family oriented. We're professionals, and we just want a better life for our people as well as ourselves.
Islam, and we're going to
So,
allow. And I also wanted to share too. With the interactive piece, we're going to allow
mhm,
people to join the live as well. We're just going to have a couple of stipulations, but we'll get into that in
mhm.
further detail. Of course, the camera has to be on. We know and understand. With that being said, I want to invite our viewing and listening audience, anybody who looks at the playback, I want to invite you if you're in the Baltimore metropolitan area, Baltimore, D.C. metropolitan area, to Temple number 13. We're located at 1055 North Milton Avenue. Our meeting times are Friday from 8 to 10 and Sundays from 12 to 2. Fridays is our holy day. It's a holy day for all Muslims, but also for anyone who wants to exercise their five senses and give honor to the God of their understanding. We know and we choose to call the great God of the universe Allah. But you are more than welcome. Again, we're family oriented. And we have individuals in our temple from all different age ranges, all different walks of life, etc. I also want to invite everybody out once again to Sunday school. Sunday school is a question and answer form. It is in our temple. We don't have a virtual Sunday school, even though we're working on one for our temple, and that's in the works. But come on out, ask your questions. There's no such thing as a bad question or a wrong question or a wrong answer, because we know we don't know it all. But that's from 12 to 2 at 1055 North Milton Avenue. I also want to give a shout out to our sister temple over on the west side. That's temple number 13 too. And they're located at 2900 Pressman Street, and they have the same meeting hours. That's 8 to 10, 12 to 2. If you're in West Baltimore, if you live in West Baltimore, go check them out. If you're on the east side, check us out, or vice versa. If you over west and you want to come over east, check us out, and vice versa. But be sure to make your meetings and make sure to go to a legally and lawfully chartered Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam,
Praise
Islam,
Allah.
praise Allah. And then with that being said, we're going to end off with the Moorish American prayer, and we're going to do that in the counting back 3, 2, 1. You can join with us, or you can just internalize. 3, 2, 1. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace,
Peace,
freedom,
freedom,
and
and
justice. Allah is my
Allah,
protector, my
my
guide,
God,
and my
and my
salvation,
salvation,
by
by night
night and by
and by
day,
day,
through his
through his
holy
holy prophet.
prophet, Drew
Through
Ali. Amen.
Amen.
Praise
Islam.
Allah. Peace and
Praise
love,
Allah.
everyone. Thank you.
Islam.